In your talk, there was perhaps one of the funniest moments in your talk because the topic was not exactly humorous, but you talked about DINS families, and those are double income, no sex families. That got a little laugh. Then you proceeded, and I thought this was very interesting. You asked a rhetorical, almost Socratic question. Where did the money go? Pause. Class. And I thought there could be at least one double meaning, perhaps two or three on there. It sounded as though you were addressing a class rather than a general public audience, but the answer to the question was also class, almost Marxist.
Exactly. Now, I don't want to denigrate or impugn the integrity of anybody, because I don't think that wealthy people in the United States have purposely set out to rig this game to gain most of the benefits of economic growth over the last 35 years. But you see, incrementally, once you open the door very wide to money in politics, almost invariably, big corporations and Wall Street and the very wealthy are going to have entree to politicians in such a way that politicians don't want to cross them. They don't want to bite the hands that feed them. And therefore, over time, incrementally, if you look at changes in laws and rules, not just taxes and subsidies and corporate welfare, as it's sometimes called, but also the actual rules of the game, property and intellectual property, patents, trademarks, how bankruptcy is organized, how and to what extent market power can be concentrated in the hands of a very few big companies, the extent to which, for example, mandatory arbitration clause in contracts prohibits people from having any day in court if they are customers or employees who have been badly treated by big corporations. When you look at the aggregate of all of this over time, the game is rigged. It is tipped in favor of the privileged and the powerful, even if no individual member of the privileged and powerful class set out necessarily to do it in such a large fashion. And so the ultimate, it seems to me, goal has got to be to get big money out of politics, has got to be to wrest democracy back from what is essentially has become an American oligarchy and give it back to the people. And I don't say that in a kind of romanticized 1960 vision of the people. I simply mean in a very practical, very practical way. People have got to be re-empowered or empowered as citizens. Otherwise, the anger will continue to grow. If it isn't Donald Trump, there'll be another demagogue after Donald Trump and another demagogue after that. And the democratic institutions on which our society have been built, those institutions will themselves corrode.
I'm Paul Kennedy, and you're listening to Ideas. Robert Reich is an author and a professor of public policy at the University of California at Berkeley. He continues his lecture as part of the Lind Initiative in U.S. Studies at the University of British Columbia.
Where will things go from here? Well, if I knew that, I would invest or take money out of Wall Street, because a lot of this is tracking on Wall Street. That is, the reason you have a 13% increase in the Dow Jones Industrial Average since the election. Many people are surprised. Many people said, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because Wall Street usually reacts negatively to uncertainty. Well, if there was ever an uncertain president and presidency, it is Donald Trump. Why is the stock market going up by 13%? The answer is that the business Republicans feel that they're going to get what they want. And what do they want? They want a big tax cut for individuals and also mainly for big corporations. They also want deregulation with regard to the Affordable Care Act and the Dodd-Frank regulatory reform of Wall Street. They also want deregulation in terms of the costs of environmental protection. In other words, all of these that I just mentioned will drive up corporate profits. And to the extent that these are driving up corporate profits, they already are, that means stock prices are going to go up. So the Wall Street's betting over the last 3 months, the betting on Wall Street, that 13% rise, is directly attributable, in my view, to the betting of the Wall Street business Republicans that they will come out on top in the struggle with the Bannon authoritarian populists. That doesn't solve anything fundamentally, and I don't want you to hear me in an upbeat way. Because the loss of environmental protections, the possibility that Wall Street could actually have another too-big-to-fail crisis in coming years, the unwinding of a lot of protections, health, safety, and workplace protections, is not something that anybody should want necessarily. But nevertheless, I would rather have all of this than a presidency that was not only unpredictable, but one that was built on xenophobia and racism and misogyny and hatefulness.